All right, it is Friday, 21st, end of day here, about to be 3 o'clock. I'm just gonna go over another good one today. Um, I gotta learn how to talk because I'm just saying like every 5 seconds. But yeah, let's go over this thing. So very clear structure. You have I'm gonna actually try no uhs. You have a box on the 1 hour time frame. Okay, we're gonna label that in red. I like to color code my stuff. Above you, right now, that is, you have another box on the hourly there. So going forward, we can have a very, very interesting next week. You have these two that need a break, and when the price enters this zone, it's going to fly. The way it came, the way it will return. So I'm going to show you though how we got into this trade today. 45 a piece is what we paid, and we closed around 180. So that's 400%. But let's just get right into it. So I'm going to wipe all of this. I'm going to show you what I was looking at this morning. Okay, we're just okay. This is IWM. Like we said earlier, you can see the box. We know what we're looking at. We also know that the price flew through down there. That's open space. We know what open space does. It allows the price to move pretty fast. You can look at this anywhere. Open space filled, filled. Same thing that's going to happen up here. Open space, open space. So that's what we were eyeing up. And I wanted to see a higher time frame form. Excuse that. So I just had to wait it out. But you end up getting a very interesting entry by just being patient. So if we want to mark out these lower time frame boxes, this is where I would be looking at. Okay, this is your ceiling. I can see a kind of respect to the 50%. You sell off, respect to the floor. That becomes your ceiling and your floor. Not perfect, but something to go off of here. So you're waiting it out and you're waiting it out. And then you start to see the rejections. Obviously, one, then two, and here's a three and a four. So as we're going on here, and we're about to see an hourly form, go to the 30 for now. We know that if we form inside this box up in here into this open space, we want to take a shot at something. So now I got a little ahead of myself there, but I'm going to show you what you can see on the lower time frame to confirm that this is happening. Not only do you see, let's just go back here. Let's go back again. So what I was seeing here is that the 10 a.m. is closing about where it should if we're going to move. This is your first target. Got to get through the stuff to get into the open space. I got to come up with some better terms for this shit. Let's just stick lower time frame here. Point is, we know if we get up in there, we gonna get up in there. We gonna get moving. And you can kind of see a smaller box right in here. Something of that nature. So we'll go lower time frame. You seem like you're coming down and then you bounce very, very sharply off the 50%. And very quickly, bam, we break. So when I see us breaking out of here, I'm ready to go. This is our target, break of this box, a new high. All of these rejections here are what really makes this interesting. Because if you think about it, it's just the price being held below this as much as they possibly can. Because what's right above you? You have this zone right here that the price has moved very fast. It came down very fast, it bounced and returned through it fast and did that. form that kind of W thing there. We know what's going to happen if we get to that. And that is why the price is rejecting so many times leading up into that. I mean, all of these are just little signs that the price wants to get going, but it's not allowed to exit just then. If you're getting confused what this is, I mean, there's a bunch of names for it, like fake out, breakout, or I don't know, some other gay shit. But the important thing is that don't get tripped up because we entered the space and didn't immediately go. This is where you have stop losses. This is where your experience comes into play. Not only is it just easy to look at this, if we go back, sorry, and just see that this is a clear box with respect to this now new floor, this 50%, this ceiling. So if you're waiting and you took contracts a little early on this exit, I mean, you have one stop loss, and it's all right. If we're forming below the 50%, then we're probably going to move off it to the floor. And then I don't want to be down there because the same thing applies. All of these rejections are keeping the price up because what's right below you, open space. I mean, look what we did here. We kind of, after hours, but we formed that seesaw, just clear movement through that zone. So if the price broke that level, you have a pretty good short, about $1.20, whatever it is. So, and if we did break that, I mean, that's what I would be looking at, a short down to right here, and then whatever. I mean, we're on a super low time frame. I could go larger and figure out what the next target would be. But first things first, we want to see a break above because obviously we're going for it. Then we break it, finally break it. And this is where most people, and even myself a little bit, I would get a little worried because now you're operating inside of this box, you know? So you could easily reject off the ceiling and come back down. So if you're holding, you really want to see respect above this 50% here. If we come back down or 5 minutes, so if I'm holding these contracts, you come back down, that is where I'm thinking about, all right, if we're moving below this harshly, I'm out. If we're holding, let's keep holding because above us is a massive, massive amount of open space. So you have this, we're on a lower time frame here, but we have a tiny little 5 minute and then a clear cut move up to this. So if you want to just use your lower time frames, very doable. And I use them for a lot of advice kind of. And you get stopped pretty much where you should. Now we're moving at the end of the day here, and things could get even more interesting. But I can count I can count pretty sure that we are going to end up at this 50% sometime today. I'm all out. You have more open space. That is just what I'm seeing. Also, it's worth noting that the two zones, which are this floor and this floor, which is your ceiling, I mean, it's only natural that the 50% of that is where you face some resistance. So 400%. We swung Mondays 236s, I think is what I used because I don't explain it before, but I don't use zero DTEs. A lot easier that way, and you can pretty much get the same return. Pretty much, obviously a little better on the zero DTE angle, but so that's the lower time frame assessment. If you want to go in now, you pick the higher time frame because this is where the actually like, where the sausage is made. You know what I mean? This is where you actually figure out a plan. And often it's crazy. You can kind of just squint and figure out which way the market is moving, which I know sounds like terrible, terrible advice. But if you just see this kind of trend popping up here and just squint and saying, where's the open space? I mean, if you just, I know how dumb it is, but if you just sit there and think like, well, that's a lot of open space, you know, that could get moving. If you see an hourly form above that, you're set an alert. It goes, banana. You go, oh, squint. Yeah, we could move fast through that. And it's just almost illogical how perfect it tends to work. You just got to wait for triggers. So obviously the hourly breaks that and just keeps on running. The 50% of this hourly box is now where we are facing some resistance. down in here. But we seem to be finding floor on the 50. I mean, with a move up to 238.30, totally could see that. But for now, I'm happy. I ran contracts up to what essentially is the 50 of that hourly box above you. And yeah, not a really complicated one. If you just look for these ones and twos right here and just use that as like your all right. Because if you were going to face resistance, that's where it was going to happen. You can go even larger here. I want to take a different perspective on this. So your 24-hour box, like that. Your floor, your 50, and your ceiling. And knowing that the open space was above you, let's keep moving down here. And I believe your 24-hour lines up quite nice with where our hourly is. That is correct. So if you wanted to use your highest time frame analysis, the 24-hour as your entry, which is probably the smart thing to do. That's usually where you trade start, and then you figure out on the lower time frames why it also makes sense where you can get those exact entries. But yeah, I mean, all of the resistance happening exactly where it should. It finally breaks perfectly exactly where it should, with like one spot to watch out for, open space, and higher time frame, 50%, smacks. It lines up because it works. You just have to see it happen. The way you have to really get good at it is just like see it happen before it happens, which is obviously the goal with any sort of predictive trading. So, but there really is like a craziness level to it where you have to literally be able to like I put my hand up on the side, you know, and I block all this out. And I just sit there and I squint, I look at it and I turn my head funny and I'm just like that needs to move up. It just needs to move up. There's no other. Obviously, news can happen and markets will remain retarded longer than you can remain solvent, is the how the saying goes. But it's just there. A move above this is open space right here. And if you're coming at it fast and you break these, that's wide open. Yeah, I mean, out of curiosity, I'm going to take a peek what the 0 DTE trade on this would have looked like. Using our 50%, we would have traded 235s. I think would have made the most sense. And our entry we did have a really nice entry today. It was like literally on this break. See, which is how it works when you trade this system because that's what you are waiting for. 5 minutes. Oops. And it's this break where my cursor's at. We said no. We said no. We said no. We said no. We pop up and then finally get through, and then we can also look at that 5 minute box, bounce where you should. So yeah, if I remember correctly, I was literally in on this, seeing it come back up. So we're looking at the 0 DTE, if that's what I went with. Been, wow. Hold on, let me do the math on that, make sure I'm right. Gotta pull out the old Apple calculator. Yeah, that would have been north of 1,000% on 0 DTE. Well, we've been hitting enough of those, so gotta bring it back down to earth and just level us out with some conservative 400% gains. 400% gains. But yeah, and I'm done fucking around. That's it. It's a good trade. Probably more left on the bone or meat on the bone. But can't complain. Going forward, Quick little like weekly perspective here. I would just say that
All right, are we back? I don't even know what just happened. I guess my mic died, so now I'm using MacBook mic. But anyway, real quick, just to go over the future of IWM. If you're gonna look on the weekly here, the only thing I'm really watching is the potential of a punchback on the weekly. What would that look like? That would look like this weekly box right here. We formed outside, we came down and we touched what was below us. So that looks like this weekly box here. And that's what you did. You formed inside, you came down. But now this weekly, potentially, I mean, not much time to go, but a little bit, 47 minutes. And if we form back inside, that's a punchback. So punchbacks work like so. Excuse me, like so. If you are inside a box and you range inside boxes, that's what you do. Sometimes you respect the floor, sometimes you bounce off that. But when you break that box, if you form back in, you're likely going to do two things. First, you're going to watch to make sure you move past the 50%. And if you do that, then you're probably going to the ceiling, and chances are, because you punched back in, you're going to break the ceiling and go make a new high. And so when open space is to the left of you, you want to be watching that punchback, grab it off the middle, and take it into the new highs where you can make good money. So what I'm watching is for this weekly candle, if we form back inside and we punch back in, then I have a pretty good target, get that out of my face, up to the 50%, because that was a punchback. And now we are inside that weekly box yet again. It's also worth noting that above this 24-hour marker right there is relatively wide open space. So if we go down through the time frames, starting on the 4, I mean, you can see that very, very clearly. Hopefully that's understandable. But the way I'm going to go in just a little more before I make up my mind on where to draw these at. I like that because floor, middle, ceiling. So, two things to watch out for. I'm going to extend this. Bam, bam. On the 2-hour time frame, you have a target up to this 50%. If you form on the floor, you have open space. Prior to it, you have open space. Go down on the 1-hour time frame, you have something to break. Where we said no here and where we said no here, which is the top of that 24-hour, that's why it's blue. When that breaks, you are going to move to the ceiling. If that becomes your floor and you hold it, you have open space and a target up to 243.40. I'd probably use the hourly. I'd use the 242.50 right there, where this rejected. So that could be a great day trade. I swing one day out and day trade that way. But if this was something where it was Monday, for example, if we pop up, we say no one more time, but then we're slow grinding and like 15, right at the end of the day, like 3:30-ish, we're holding above that, I'm going to swing into the next day. You could probably 0 DT the next day if it doesn't happen that fast, but that's kind of all I'm watching here. If you reject there again and you fall too far down, this is why, I mean, we're kind of forming a little something here, but relatively wide open space. Below that 50% is an easy short. So that's it. Watch for the 50. A move below that is down there. And because we kind of punched back into this box, I would anticipate, like my gut says, we break this zone Monday or Tuesday sometime soon, and we move to this 50% to 243.30. So that's it. Just watching, see what happens. All eyes are on this final hourly and the weekly as a result. See what happens. Not going to swing anything into Monday, but definitely will consider stuff Monday. Yeah, closing off there. All right.